Do you ever find yourself looking at the news and feeling that it is all awful? Just war, crisis, and disaster. And if you are one of the people caught up in the conflict at the moment, it must be even worse. You probably wonder, what direction is the world heading in? As you know, we don't often cover the main news here at Adept English. So today, while headlines are telling us how things are going badly wrong, let's look instead at places in the world where quietly positive things are happening. This is the value of our positive news stories at Adept English. Let's find some little points of light today in a world that seems very dark at the moment. Welcome. I'm Hilary, and this is a Learn Through Listening podcast. We are all about helping you to learn English through listening, naturally, and listening to interesting topics that actually make your day a little brighter. So today we're looking at good news stories as an antidote to the bad news stories. These come from a website called Good Good Good. Specifically today, we will answer 3 strange questions. How do you fund a multi-million-pound project? By selling socks? What happens when a town lets ordinary local people have a say in its government? And how are ancient traditions teaming up with flying drones? That's drone, to save the Amazon rainforest, or at least some of it. Today you'll get vocabulary about global projects to save the environment and to improve healthcare where it's most needed, as well as a new project in democracy that's really working. We're giving you the words, phrases, and vocabulary to understand and join the discussion on global issues in English. Bring your English conversation up to a whole new standard with our positive news stories. Let's start in West Africa, and our first story in a country called Sierra Leone. Historically, Sierra Leone has struggled to provide its people with good health care. It's a typical story about how war affects ordinary people's lives. In Sierra Leone, there was a long civil war. A civil war, civil, means a war between people in the same country. And Sierra Leone's medical systems were badly damaged by this civil war. One of the problems, the maternal death rate. That means the number of mothers dying in pregnancy or childbirth. To give some context, in 2020, the maternal death rate in the UK was about 1 in 5,200. In the US, 1 in 3,800. But in Sierra Leone, in 2020, following the civil war, the number of mothers dying in pregnancy or childhood, well, it was 1 in 52. That's terrible. And in 2020, 69% of maternal deaths around the world occurred in Africa. So the WHO and other organisations have set a goal to try and change this, certainly in Sierra Leone. To put the figures another way, they want to reduce the 531 deaths per 100,000 to 70 deaths per 100,000, and all that by 2030. It's a huge task. But some good news on this effort. A new hospital opened on the 14th of February 2026, that's this year, a new maternity hospital. So maternity, maternity, that means it's a hospital where mothers give birth. And this one is the Paul Farmer Medical Centre of Excellence, or the Paul Farmer MCOE. It's been set up to help mothers and babies who are particularly at risk. It has 166 beds, many more than in the region before, and an intensive care unit, or ICU. This will make a massive difference. How has this been possible? Well, through an organisation called Partners in Care, working with local government in Sierra Leone. Partners in Care is a non-profit organisation, so it's a business, but it doesn't pay money to shareholders. it puts its money to good causes instead. And two brothers, both famous online, John and Hank Green, have also played quite a big part. They are entrepreneurs, YouTubers, known for their channel Vlog Brothers. A vlogger means a video blogger, of course. So John and Hank Green used their names and their money to set up a company called Awesome Socks Club. They sold socks online and gave their profits to Partners in Health. Awesome Socks has since become Good Store and profits so far $10 million. So selling socks online has played a part in funding this new maternity hospital in a place where it's so badly needed. That is progress. Now, you could argue that this is exactly what people in rich Western countries should be doing to help inequality in the world. Inequalities which are political, economic, social, and not the fault of the people who suffer. That's fair comment. But at least it's happening. So well done to the Green brothers for using their money, power and influence where it's needed. Hopefully this hospital will save lots of lives. Now, if you want to push your English further, visit our website adeptenglish.com. Our two main courses are very popular. The most common 500 words course will make sure you have all the basic vocabulary in English, and Activate Your Listening will help you develop your English conversation skills. That's structured learning on our courses page. For our second news story, we are going to travel from West Africa to Europe. Do you feel that a lot of people in the world are losing their trust in governments? We look at politicians and see them just arguing with one another and not solving anything. And there is the sense at the moment that world leaders are led by much worse motivations. They seem to seek only to aggrandize themselves. To aggrandize, AGGRANDISE. That means to seek to increase one's power and wealth. I'll leave you to work out who I might mean there. But basically, our faith in politics is at an all-time low. Well, a small town in Belgium called Oost-België, which has about 80,000 residents, people who live there, well, they decided to try something different. The local government gave randomly selected citizens the power to make decisions. Randomly selected means people were chosen at random, by chance. The local government literally ran a lottery. They sent letters to random people in the town. From the people who said yes, they selected 30 everyday citizens to join an assembly. That's a group who meet to decide things. These normal people meet once a week to discuss how the town should be run. They even get paid a daily allowance of €155. Instead of politicians fighting for votes, you have a baker, a nurse, a retired bus driver, a teacher, someone who works in a supermarket, and a local business owner, all sitting down together, looking at facts, having a calm discussion, and making decisions. And guess what? The results have been brilliant. They have successfully changed housing rules for poorer residents and funded new training for nurses, normal people who don't have massive egos or political careers to think of, and who are in touch with common problems, who know what normal life is like. If you let people like these just use their common sense, they come up with great ideas and solutions. What do we mean by common sense? It's an English phrase. We mean good judgment based on a simple and clear perception of the facts. As my old Latin teacher used to say, common sense ain't so common. But actually, to me, you often find wisdom in ordinary people. And this is proper democracy in action. I wish we had this in the UK. I'd have a thing or two to say. Finally, let's look at our third news story. We constantly hear terrible things about climate change and about the Amazon rainforest being cut down. But a quiet victory is happening in Bolivia, in South America. Indigenous communities, that's indigenous, INDIGENOUS. That means people who come from a region, an area. Indigenous communities are successfully protecting huge areas of land and forest. We often hear that saving the rainforest apparently requires world leaders in suits flying around in private jets. But actually, what is proving most effective is the protection of the forest by people who have lived there for thousands of years. They're the ones most motivated to protect the land and their way of life. So Bolivia recently has created 4 new protected areas of land, covering 1 million hectares, 2.2 million acres. It covers areas in the Amazon and the Andes. And this will create what are known as wildlife corridors, meaning the safe passage of animals from one area to another, protecting the animals' habitat where they live. The project also protects rainforest-based economies for local people. So this is local people, indigenous communities, using traditional knowledge of the forest as well as modern technology to protect the land, like flying drones to map their land and keep out illegal tree cutters. Bolivia previously had the highest rate of deforestation. That's the cutting down of trees. But Bolivia now has a goal to protect 30% of its land by 2030. Let's hope they get there. So notice the stories we've looked at today. We've seen the use of powerful protection by indigenous communities in Bolivia. We've looked at everyday citizens in Belgium fixing common problems. And we've talked about a hospital project that proves you can make positive change in the world through business and even through socks. Let's hope more non-profits like that can make a difference. While the newspaper front pages are full of the bad, difficult and dramatic things, progress is happening quietly in the background all around the world. Let's try and remember that in these difficult times.